Welcome to the Canes Corner podcast. Hi, everyone. I am Adam Gold. Glad to have you with us. Let's get the particulars out of the way first. You see it in the upper right, lower left-hand corner of the screen. Aluminum Company of North Carolina. Big ups. Sammy Hanna's crew do a great job. If you need some home improvings on the outside, exterior of your home, siding, you need roofing, you need windows, you need doors. Everybody needs doors. Got to come in and out of the house somehow. Aluminumcompany.com for a free no obligation estimate. Thank you very much. Brief interlude before we begin the podcast. Sorry, I've done this before. Excuse me. Beverage. All right. Shouts to Gizmo Brewing in Raleigh. Not that they don't pay me to do this, by the way. Do this out of the goodness of my heart. And I thought appropriate. I'm not celebrating anything. I thought appropriate to drink one of Gizmo's fake news selections. Outstanding, by the way. Because, well, the Hurricanes won a road game. I probably won't spend a lot of time complaining about that, but Hurricanes won a road game, and I thought they weren't good enough to win on the road. Actually, that's not accurate. I want to be accurate when I slam this stupid narrative, the lazy narrative, that the Hurricanes somehow can't win on the road. I realize that our friends at ESPN are back in hockey for, this is just the second year. ESPN used to love hockey when they had it, then they lost it, then they forgot hockey existed except for John Buccigross and Barry Melrose and Linda Cohn. Shouts to Linda Cohn, she's the best. And then ESPN gets hockey back, and the first season ESPN gets hockey, Hurricanes are awesome, they win the Metropolitan Division, and then they can't win a game on the road in the playoffs. Therefore, they can't win a game on the road. Why can't the Hurricanes win a game on the road? They just won the last series on the road. They won 2 of 3 games on the road on Long Island. So these 2 years are not the entirety of this Hurricanes team. They were 3-5 on the road in the first year. They went 1-3 against Washington, won game 7. They went 2-0 against the Islanders, so that's 3-3. And then they lost both games in Boston, 3-5. That was year 1. Year 2, there were no road games. Everything was a road game. Technically, they went 3-0 against the Rangers on the road. Joke. Won more games in Toronto than Toronto. Ha, ha, ha. Then the next year, they close out the Nashville Predators on the road. The only game they won in the series against Tampa, they won on the road. So last year was the outlier. Hurricanes are now 3-2 on the road. So can we stop with that crap? Thank you. And do me a favor, people. Don't hit up Ray Ferraro or Sean McDonough or Emily Kaplan. This ain't them. This is the people who sit in rooms and come up with storylines. It's not them. Oh, the matchups. Rod has matchups at home. He's helpless on the road. All right. I'm done with that. Okay. 6-1. We got how many minutes in? I got 4 minutes in. I just gave the score. 6-1. So obviously a lot of cool things happened tonight. 1, Carolina looked like, but the first 10 minutes or so. And it was kind of similar to the way it went after the Necas off the crossbar Timo Meier goal in game 1. Carolina just looked kind of messy in their own end. The first goal was just a flat mistake. I want to give Brett Pesce the benefit of the doubt, especially since Pesce and Shea ended up having good games. That first play I want to say that Pesce was just maybe a little slow in getting rid of the puck and that Jack Hughes actually bothered him. Because I think it's possible that Hughes might have gotten his stick on Pesce's stick because all Brett did was get the primary assist. Actually, it wasn't. It would have been the secondary assist because Timo Meier's shot was deflected in by Jack Hughes. That was the first goal. So I'm going to give Brett Pesce the benefit of the doubt there. And Freddie Anderson had no help. There was no chance on the goal. It was deflected in. I mean, it did go through him, but deflected goals are deflected goals. And Freddie was very good after that as well. So even if there is in some way, shape, or form to blame him for that goal, I'm going to let it go because he was so good the rest of the game. And I gave him one of my 3 stars. He made some saves in the first period when it was 1-0 that if he doesn't make the save, again, who knows what happens. We've all been watching sports long enough. Excuse me. We understand that there are tipping points in every game. A jump shot that doesn't go in, a jump shot that rattles in and out that would have given you the lead, and now you're deflated and the other team goes down and knocks a 3. A pitch in baseball called a strike, or a batted ball that hits a base and caroms over. I mean, just lucky stuff that goes on in sports that are in many ways out of your control. There are just moments. Carolina won the moments tonight. And once they started winning the moments, then all of a sudden it was a deluge of goals. I mean, it was an absolute onslaught. And we will talk about them. But an impressive performance. So before we go through like what happened, and we're not going to spend a ton of time on what happened since I'm going to guess most of you watched what happened, but we'll go through it anyway. Big picture about, again, this team and what it was like, because there was a lesson taught tonight. I'm going to read a tweet or quote, and I'm going to refer to something that was said after Game 3. But this team understands who they are, what they are, and how they have to go about their business in order to be successful. And that team didn't play on Sunday afternoon in Game 3. It didn't. It was a different team, dressed as the team that we understand that played tonight. But the best thing about this team is that the team that impersonated them on Sunday doesn't stick around very often. So you knew at some point they were going to figure out how to get to where they needed to be in order to be effective. Doesn't mean you're going to win. Like, to be perfectly honest, I mean, not all those goals have to go. The Burns goal doesn't have to go. The Pesce goal doesn't have to go. The Martinook goal doesn't have to go. In a perfect world, or not a perfect world, in a normal world, in a normal Hurricanes existence, only 2 of those goals go, or 3 of those goals go. And we get to the third period, and a 3-1 game is super different than a 6-1 game, right? So, like, circumstance also helped Carolina here in this one. The Devils, pretty porous goaltending, and if I could just say, very, very mediocre defense. The Devils are an exciting, fast, talented team that needs 3 new defensemen who can actually defend. Including, I won't say it. I won't say it. I won't say it. I will just relate a quick anecdote from the game. It was the Burns goal. Was it after the Burns goal? Actually, I think it was after the Fost goal that made it 4-1. And I was sitting there with my lovely wife, and she said, "Why is number 7 not doing anything?" And I said, "Oh, I'm not surprised." Tough night for DJH Jr. Tough night. But I think this has not been a good series for him. He's been passive, and Hamilton is a guy that you can win with if you've got a lot of other people around him and you are not counting on to be your anchor, which is why the Hurricanes were never going to pay him $9.5 million or $9 million a year. That's what the Devils are paying him. Can't do it. He was just this has not been a good series for Dougie Hamilton. All right, that was just my observation from the game. I apologize if you're a DJH fan. He is a great player. 74 points this year. Nobody's sneezing at that. Great player. But if you're paying a defenseman $9 million a year, he's got to be better than that in a playoff series. Has to be better than that. And the Hurricanes saw it for 3 years, and they needed better. And you get rid of the bubble. He was hurt. But you just need better than that when you're in the playoffs. It has to have it. All right. We will get to comments and questions here in a second. Martin Necas is clearly better when the puck is bouncing or otherwise on edge. Both goals came with the puck. The Martinook, I still can't figure. Martinook bounced it to him. Perfect bounce pass. They're playing basketball. And Necas just whacked at it. And, I mean, he knew what he was doing and beat Vanecek for that tying goal was so big. I can't even express how big it was. Then the second goal, Pesce's pass across, was sort of deflected on the way across. So that puck, was also kind of on edge. And if you saw the goal in slow motion, Necas actually kind of scooped it because the puck was sort of almost vertical at one point, and he scooped it into the net. Two great individual skill plays from Marty Necas. So not only does Carolina tie the game at the end of the first, late in the first period, so you get to relax. Like you don't have to go into the locker room saying, my gosh, what are we going to do here? Not that they would have done that, because I think they would have been pretty calm. And actually, it wouldn't have been the worst thing in the world to only be down 1-0 after one. I mean, I would have taken that 10 minutes into the period, wouldn't you? But Necas gives you the fresh start of the second period, and then he gives you the lead with the second goal. And Marty just bought himself a couple more games of, all right, well, he did that. Like he did a lot this year, right? Marty did a lot really good. I mean, I think all of us want to love everything about Necas, and we know that right now there are still some limitations. And the last 21 games of the regular season and the first 9 of the playoffs, just 16 points. 5 goals, 16 points. And that's not the Marty Necas that played the first 60 games of the regular season. 61 games, 59 points. So we've seen two different Necases. And the Necas at the end of the year was also giving the puck away. So we get he is the girl with the curl. That's an old phrase that my dad used to tell me, or somebody my dad's age when he was alive used to say. It's like the little girl with the curl. When he's good, he's very good. When he's bad, yeah. But he made plays tonight, and that's what they need out of Necas. He has to create something. If there are questions about if there are puck management issues, if there are lack of physicality issues at times, at least he can be a guy who can score a big goal. And he gave us 2 tonight. Brett Pesce had a goal, and after the early mistake, Pesce was very good in the game. Jesper Fast and Jordan Martinook, and Jesperi Kotkaniemi was good tonight. So he had only the one bad game on Sunday, and he was not alone. There were other guys who had bad games. He was good again tonight. But, I mean, what do you say about Jesper Fast and Connor McMartinook? McMartinook has 9 points in this series. 9 in 4 games in the series. First time in his life he's had 4 consecutive multi-point games. They just happen to be in the playoffs. Brent Burns, very good tonight. Jacob Slavin was spectacular tonight. I liked a lot what I saw from Chatfield and Martin and Gostisbehere as well. I think after the first 10 minutes, I thought Carolina was they were in control of the game. They were in control of the speed of the game. They were in control of the neutral zone of the game. The penalty kill was chef's freaking kiss. So good. The power play in the third period, did the Devils even bring it into the zone? I'm not even sure. The penalty kill is now, I want to get the number. I think I wrote it down. Yes. 27 out of 29 in the playoffs. 27 out of 29. Sounds good to me. All right, one more big picture thing, and this is kind of a lesson. And then we'll look at some comments here, and we'll think about Game 5. After Game 3, I remember reading a comment from Nico Hischier, and he said, "Yeah, now we've got a series." And I think I said it either today on the radio or maybe yesterday on the radio or in one of these spectacular, riveting, cannot miss a second Canes Corner podcast live on YouTube. I didn't even tell you yet to whisper sweet nothings to the like button or the subscribe button or whatever the button says. Like buy it flowers. Just know that you're going to be there for each other. So hit it, and so it shows up automatically. You always know when it's happening. But I remember a comment that Nico Hischier made after the game, and where he said, now we've got a series. And here's where young players who have not experienced this will never get it. Or not never. They don't understand. What the Devils did on Sunday was they won a hockey game. They have accomplished nothing to this point. I would argue Carolina hasn't either. But they're smart enough to recognize that. So the Devils felt, to a man, I guess, that they had achieved something by winning Game 3 at home 8-4. Were they great in the game? Yeah, they were. Did they outplay Carolina? Yeah, they did. But they just did it once. They're not in this series, A, until they at least draw even in the series, and B, gonna have to win on road ice at some point. Now, they were very good at winning on the road this season, and they even won a game at Carolina. Each team has won one and lost one in each other's building this year. But they didn't accomplish anything with the Game 3 win. And I found it funny that was the narrative coming out of that dressing room, that we have somehow accomplished something. You have done squadouche. And so today, the Devils got off to a very good start, had the 1-0 lead. Frederik Andersen had to make a couple of nice saves, one very big save. And then, as the period started to wear on, we started to see signs of Carolina kind of climbing back in it. And then they get the goal. Oh, man, they get the goal. And then the second period started, and the game was over because the second period was played entirely the way Carolina wanted to play it. I still don't understand. I think the Devils had like 9 or 10 shots in the period. I don't remember any. I mean, they were there, obviously. But they were not threatening in the second period. And they were, like Carolina, just trying to get to the finish line in the third. That's the way I felt about the third period. I thought the Devils were a beaten team, and they were just trying to get out of there. Like, you thought maybe there would be some messages sent. Nope, none. And I'm a little surprised about Andre Palat, because Palat's been to the mountaintop twice with Tampa. A little surprise there. The Devils had 3 high danger chances combined in the second and third period. Not that Carolina had a ton either. Like I said, some of those goals don't have to go for Carolina. They just did, so it ended the game. Hurricanes had 6 high danger chances according to Natural Stat Trick, in all situations in the second and third period. They had 6 in the first period. That's why I said at the end, Carolina started to get some chances. Started to have some pretty good looks. And then the Nature's goal just changed the entire mood, I thought. All right. One quick thing about Game 5, and then we will go through comments, and I appreciate all of you hanging out. I know we have a lot of comments. Gosh, it's going to be hard to go through all of them. Game 5. So there was a comment made on ESPN, and Ray Ferraro was correct about a lack of depth for the Hurricanes. I think it's a little misleading, and I'll explain why in a second. No, I'll just explain why now. Carolina has an NHL forward not playing right now. Jesse Puljujarvi. We could debate all day long how good of an NHL forward he is, how productive he is, but he is an NHL forward. You wouldn't be embarrassed to put him on the ice, and he's played a lot in the playoffs anyway. They have 2 NHL defensemen. Do I want to see Calvin DeHaan or Dylan Coghlan play a playoff game? No, I don't. I'm happy with the 6 who are out there. But I wouldn't hate it at all if Max Lajoie played in a playoff game. I think Max Lajoie is better than Calvin DeHaan and Dylan Coghlan. With that said, Carolina not having depth enough to withstand a lengthy series and then maybe another lengthy series, that may be true, but I would point this out. Carolina's depth has already been tested, and they've done okay. And I believe that if they had to, they could put some of those kids on the ice, a Ryan Suzuki, a Vasily Ponomarov, and shield them enough to where they didn't have to play a lot. And Rod has never minded giving his, top 9 forwards, top 10 forwards, extra couple of minutes of ice time a game, and he has never shied away from relying on a core 4 or 5 defenseman. So I'm not that concerned about a lack of depth unless Carolina suffers another injury to a major player, which leads me to the reason why Ray Ferraro was right to bring it up. Why do you end the series as soon as you can? 5 games Thursday night in Raleigh. You do it so that you don't have to take the risk of playing a game 6 or a game 7. The fewer times you face live bullets, the better. So, come on, boys. Let's wrap this sucker up on Thursday night in front of your fans. It's always fun to end a series on the road, but it's more fun when your fans get to throw birthday cake. Happy birthday, Calvin DeHaan, by the way. I think it was his birthday today. All right, let's get to a couple of questions. The comments I'm going to have to just skip over. And thank you very much for the love on the podcast. Yes, everybody's got comments. I'm trying to get to questions. I'm trying to do the best I can. All right, Nathaniel, what do you think the biggest surprise from the Devils has been in this series? He says the shriveling of Dougie Hamilton. I think I covered that. Yeah. Dougie's been a disappointment, I think, for the Devils. I'm sure they're talking about it on the Devil's Corner podcast live on YouTube. I have no idea if there is one. Disappointing. The Devils are young, man. They're so good. They are. If I were a Devils fan, I'd be disappointed that my team threw 4 games in this series, and the series is not over. I think they had second best road record in the league. They can win in Raleigh. They already have one in Raleigh. Then you have to go back to, you don't want to do that, right? You don't want to play this game. They are too talented. We've seen it. If I were a Devils fan and the series ends, whether it's Thursday in Raleigh, Saturday in Jersey, or Monday back here in Raleigh, regardless, if your season ends, it's gonna be a bummer, but you go into the offseason. I've got 2 guys named Hughes. Timo Meier's going to sign it. They didn't trade for him to not sign him to a contract, right? Got Timo Meier, going to sign him to a contract. I've got some veteran presence. I think Eric Hall has been good for them. I would consider bringing him back, although maybe the finances won't work out. Whoever he's going to will probably play the Hurricanes in the playoffs next year. John Marino is a very solid defenseman. To me, that's the area where I'd be disappointed if I were the Devils. But there is Dawson Mercer and Jesper Bratt. They are so good up front. I would be super, super excited about their future. But as I said earlier, maybe it was here, maybe it was in the aftermath, I think they need 3 different NHL defensemen. There's a lot of the same. There's not a lot. There's no physicality back there at all. Not that the Hurricanes are blessed with great physicality, but I think all of their guys will throw the body around a little bit. But there's a lot of skating back there and not a lot of defending. So that's an area where I think the Devils need to improve. But yes, your $9 million defenseman, Dougie Hamilton, has not been very good through 4 games. Even the game they won, I didn't think Hamilton was that great. How crazy is it that Martinook was on waivers designated for assignment leading into opening night? All right, I saw this earlier. My friend Brad on Twitter, shout to you, Brad, put it out there. It is something that happened. 2 things, though. He was not placed there for any other reason than they knew he would not be selected because he has an additional year left on his contract and he has an injury history. And people were not going to take him off their hands if he's only going to play half a year or he's only going to be an effective player for half a year because he's hurt. Remember, the history of Jordan Martinook has been, because of the way he plays, he has had a hard time staying healthy. But I think we have just seen this year what happens when he does. So it was a procedural move that carried some very slight risk that somebody would be like, I could use that leadership. I'll take a chance. That could have happened. But he was not waived because they didn't want him. They just didn't waive him because they wanted to make sure that they kept. And I'm trying to remember. I don't know that it was Nason or Chatfield, because neither of those players were clearing waivers. Neither of them. Nason, maybe. No way Chatfield was clearing waivers. So because of that, they decided they had to do something. So they waived Martinook. Nobody claimed him. And as soon as the rosters were frozen, boom, here comes Jordan Martinook. End of discussion. So, yes, he was waived, but it was nothing more than a procedural move. So, let's see. This series is very similar to what the Bruins did to us the first few go-rounds. Plenty of skill, skate prowess, and got big boyed. Yeah, I don't think Carolina's big boying them. It has not been a physical mismatch, but the physicality really showed up in game 2, but hasn't really been. I haven't seen it. I do think that Carolina has played with more poise and has been able to kind of withstand some of the worst moments, but it's hard to even really argue it or quantify it, but I think Carolina's just played with a little bit more poise, and they've shown the experience. Experience has mattered, I think, greatly in this series. Let's get to a couple of more questions here. Our Australian. Here's what I need from you, Mikhailov. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. You are in Australia. I need to know where. Are you on the east coast of Australia, where it's, let's see, 11, it's 3:00 in the afternoon? Or are you on the west coast? Are you in Perth? Are you in Melbourne? Are you in Sydney? I don't know where you are. Tell me where you are so we can give a shout out to where you are. William mentioned that Necas looked more under control tonight. I agree. I think the goal really settled him down. I also think the fact that there was no thinking involved at all. It was simply a reaction play. That Necas got that goal. The second goal was just as good. And I'm thrilled for Marty because I know a lot of you have never met some of these guys, but I've had a chance to talk to Necas. I'm telling you, he is one of the nicest guys you'll meet. There are a ton of nice guys. It's almost a curse on this team because they're all nice guys. Jarvis is hysterical. Aho is just wonderful. Antti Raanta, what am I? They're all good guys. Seriously, I've talked to so many of them, but Necas is just a regular dude. He really is a nice kid. And I'm glad he had a couple of great moments tonight, and maybe that'll carry him the rest of the way. All right, we're almost out of time here. Let's see if we can find a couple more good questions. We don't need to pile on Dougie Hamilton, as fun as it might be. It's like 60% of the comments here seem to be Dougie Hamilton. Samuel says, I feel like the way the Devils play helps Necas play better, depending on the matchup, depending on the line they see. Yes. And Trip Tracy mentioned that today, that he thought that Necas if they ended up putting skaters against the stall line, that Necas against skaters kind of digs it because that's what Marty wants to do. So it was it's pretty prophetic. Let's see if we can get some other questions here. I think we're done. But it's been fun. There's a lot of positivity, and I appreciate the positivity. I also appreciate you hanging out here on the Canes Corner podcast. Again, lovingly caress the like button and the subscribe button. It's much better than smashing it. We don't need to be aggressive. The game is over. And we are brought to you by the Aluminum Company of North Carolina. If it's for the exterior of your home, you can find it at the Aluminum Company of North Carolina on Hamlin Road in Durham. There is no place like it. Sammy and his crew do a great job. So if you need siding or roofing or windows or entry doors or storm doors or gutter helmets, find out what the gutter helmet is. That's the place to go. Best customer service in the industry. Aluminumcompany.com. Follow the Canes Corner podcast wherever you get it, wherever you get podcasts. Give us a rating if you like. But hey, even if you watch this show live, listen to it in your car on the way to work, on the way to the gym, on the way to, I don't know, wherever you go. And with that, one more. Excuse me. I don't think the company wants me to do this on camera. Excuse me. Fake news by Gizmo. The fake news, of course, being the Hurricanes can't win on the road in the playoffs. 3-2 this year. I bet we don't hear that again because I think Sean McDonough is listening to the podcast right now. All right, we're out of here. Appreciate everybody's time. I am Adam Gold. We will see you after Thursday, and let's hope that the Hurricanes wrap the series up then. Until then, good night.